welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and we're back inside of Planet Coaster, inside of our park Rolling Springs, for kind of a mini update right now. Didn't get too much done this week, however, there is some big changes that I was talking about dreading for the past couple of episodes, but I finally got around to them. So we're starting terraforming. We've got a brand new coaster up and running. Still have to do some detail work around the station especially, but I have so many questions for you and more, so let's go ahead and walk further into the park. We've made our way to pretty much the borders of Lulu City and Planet Snoopy, because you can see a brand new B&M Invert popping out in the background. Now, I guess it's not technically brand new, but let's go ahead and check it out as we get a little bit closer. Now, something I haven't quite finished up yet, or at least before this video, was Tanahutu Falls layout. Now, that has been completed. There's so much more detailing to do on that ride. I have to pretty much forest an entire area, but just know we are going to look at the layout in just a moment as we make our way around the saloon, going towards the church. As we make a left, you'll see this walkway is no longer just facing a cliffside. This is Barnstormer. At least that's the name we have right now. I'm curious if you guys want to change it in the future, because I was thinking this ride might be better suited for something like Cliff Dweller or Cliff Diver or something along those lines, just because it is so ingrained in the topography of the landscape. It's just nuts what it does, and you'll see the layout in just a moment. Now, this layout we pretty much created over on our Twitch during a stream, I don't know, probably 6 to 8 months ago at least. Now, the layout itself was pretty hard to work with in general, because there was some memes that got thrown in to the layout itself, but it gave us some ideas of potentially using the terrain to our benefit with the ride. That eventually led to us thinking about diving off the cliffside, and now this is, I believe, one of maybe 2 B&M Inverts in the world with 2 separate lift hills. At least that's not a dueling ride, of course, as we'll actually go around the corner closer to the train station, beat those folks out in a race, and you can see the first and the second lift hill actually kind of coinciding with each other a little bit, as the first drop just takes you over 150 feet down toward the bottom of this new ravine that I have kind of landscaped out. We'll go to the edge right here so you can kind of get a better idea of what this all looks like. You can kind of barely see the train tracks in the far distance here. That is all pretty much made to make the train much easier to handle. Something we talked about, I think, at least a couple episodes ago, instead of just having the whole thing be a bridge. Now, there is a bridge for the train, which we can talk about that later, but there is so much to do on that side of this now gigantic ravine that actually has some water at the bottom too, which I just think looks really, really cool. But let's look at the main attraction for today's video. This is Barnstormer. It is a B&M Invert. I can't remember what year I said it premiered at the park. I want to say anywhere, I think it's like Silver Bullet era. Let me go ahead and check my notes real quick. Let's see, Barnstormer. No, I didn't get a particular year. I will say there are elements on this ride that definitely are very Silver Bullet influenced. And then there are some elements on the ride that are kind of Banshee influenced. And then there are some that are late 90s B&M influenced. So it's like trying to pinpoint a year on it has been kind of tough for me. I think probably, 2006 to 2011 makes the most sense for a ride like this. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure right at the moment. But this thing is pretty dang massive. It could technically operate on 3 trains. There is a mid-course brake run, and the storage track and transfer track are actually at the bottom of the ravine, so I want to figure that out. It's definitely a oh my gosh, the park needs something now. Go ahead and fit whatever you can into this crazy plot of land and we'll pay whatever you want. This would have been one of the most expensive purchases in the park's history, while also being pretty terribly themed all around. Now, the name Barnstormer, I don't know if I want to keep with that just because of that terrain interaction like I talked about, so let me know down in the comments below if you think a different name would be better. But this station is probably the most boring I've made thus far. It's just a big barn. That's it. Nothing special. It's way too big for what it should be. It takes over a lot of the skyline unless, you put some trees in front of it. That was actually something I was really worried about from the onset of building that. It was much bigger originally, but you could totally see it from pretty much any part of the park because it would just stick out above the buildings in front of it, which was just a no-go, so I had to rework a lot of it, but it's all good. I think it's looking all right now. I mean, it's looking as all right as a giant barn can, but you can see the final brake run here goes right over that main pathway. Again, super influenced by Silver Bullet here. Just made sense in my mind, especially just because of how compact the station has to be in accordance with the rest of the land and the landscape. You just had to squeeze it wherever you could, pretty much was how it ended up working out. Now, there is a small access road here for maintenance staff that potentially could get through here and then walk down to Tanahutu Falls and the bottom of the drop if there's any maintenance needs that way. But as we fall down this cliffside, pretty much, you can see this ride is nuts, and honestly, I don't think would be achievable in real life without the deepest pockets possible. Just thinking about the construction process for this hurts my brain. Like, trying to get down there and also disturbing the water that would already potentially be down there and just all sorts of other things. It would be such a pain to transport the pieces, especially down this cliffside. But in our fake Planet Coaster world, it was done. It was doable. It was the highlight of Colorado for whatever year it was built. But yeah, it's just nuts. And of course, Tanahutu Falls right next door. It actually has a little dueling moment with Barnstormer right after the first and only drop. This Immelman, or Sidewinder inversion, goes right up and around the rapids, which I think is just such a cool moment. There's so much theming to do on this rapids ride, so I'm very excited to get to that in the near future. It's gonna be nuts, though, once this is all complete. Of course, had to have a little nod to Anaconda. The lift hill does go through a vertical loop. That makes this park probably the only one to have two of those, which is just kind of funny in my mind. But yeah, let's go ahead and walk back up the maintenance road real quick. Give you a quick view of the queue, which is very, very simplistic. Just a bunch of switchbacks here. Nothing interesting, realistically, outside of very, very basic theme. Just just little theming set pieces, really. It's just as basic as you could probably get. Probably even needs more shade, honestly. But, they spent so much on this ride, I don't think they'd spend anything really on the queue outside of the bare minimum. So, yeah, not surprising at all. I will say this queue is a cool spot to get the train wrapping around you, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and just head into the station real quick. Thought about Ghost Rider Station a little bit with this, and then eventually Thunderbird Station was kind of an inspiration as well. But yeah, super, super simplistic on the inside. Still want to do some more, like, especially lighting-wise. But yeah, this is going to be pretty bare bones overall. Just want to get some more of the support structure in to hold up this ginormous roof. And this ride, believe it or not, would have bins on the side, although I thought about making lockers mandatory, considering how many things would be lost in that lake at the bottom of the ravine. But yeah, it's pretty amazing looking, and it's kind of awesome in like the biblical way with how it traverses the area that it does. And I'm pretty proud of what I was able to do with the layout that we made originally. But let's go ahead and actually get a view from up above. So here we are above Barnstormer's station. You can see it going up its first lift hill right now. Believe it or not, it's only a 155-foot drop, I want to say, as the autosave decides to kick in at the worst moment. Goodness gracious. Yeah, overbank turn, kind of like Silver Bullet, almost exactly, leading into a pretty tight Immelman. A sharp left-hand bank turn here, and then your vertical loop. Believe it or not, there's only 4 inversions on this ride, which I thought was kind of interesting. But again, I was just following what people were asking for in the Twitch chat. Then it goes into a mid-course brake run, left-hand turn out of that into interlocking corkscrews. There's your third and then eventually fourth inversion. Multiple of these turns pulling 4+ Gs in some moments, which I think is pretty dang cool. Definitely reminiscent of some older B&M there. And then, of course, finish it off with a very Silver Bullet-inspired helix before hitting that final brake run and technically transfer track, which that's going to be interesting to try and figure out the build for that, which I'm pretty excited to do so. However, I will say if they were on maintenance for this ride, goodness, it would be the longest walk back and forth, and I would have to figure out how to get some type of service vehicle down there. I guess not necessarily, but I feel like that would be a good idea. So we'll see what I end up doing when it comes to that. But I will say, yeah, if you're a maintenance member trying to get down to the transfer track, that journey would include like a spiral staircase up into the second lift hill, then walking all the way down that lift hill, only to get over here and then have to walk back up the set of stairs and then back down another set of stairs. It would just be insane. Speaking of insane, there's a couple moments here that obviously interact with the terrain, like maybe even thinking of a tiny cave section on this quick turnaround right there. And then even right before the Immelman, with the way it interacts with the Rapids ride, this, I'm thinking, this like cliff face will eventually be what used to be a waterfall, but ends up being like a leaky wooden dam. Very reminiscent of Grizzly River Run at California Adventure. I want to kind of implement that type of idea right before the final drop. It goes directly above that final drop, and there's this cool wooden structure that they designed and made it look like it's at the edge of a dam, so there's like water spurting out of the side there and all sorts of other cool moments that I would like to try and recreate to an extent. Speaking on the layout itself of Tanahutu Falls, super basic all around. Definitely going to try and interact with some of the train tracks in the background there, which I think will be cool. There will be a big waterfall in the beginning. I mean, that's the main attraction for this ride. And then all of this is going to be heavily wooded. Not sure I'm going to do anything else besides the woods, really. Maybe just like a small cabin or just very small interactive moments. Nothing animatronic-wise or anything like that, I don't think, especially for this ride opening in 2000. That wasn't really heard of on many raft rides, especially across, the big box amusement parks like this is. It just wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I think it's looking pretty dang good. I'm curious if you guys want to change the theme though, because it is just, I feel, not the most fitting name-wise, but if you guys are cool with Barnstormer, I'm cool with keeping it. Yeah, I think the layout looks pretty nuts. It looks amazing, especially with the ravine kind of taking over. It's just everything. It's crazy. But This is the original layout over here. I've kind of overlaid it across a couple of other failed coaster projects. The original layout had the station where that final brake run or semi-final brake run is up into the main lift hill. Actually could not get the station to work with all the track next to it. Like, I couldn't build an exit queue at all, so that was a concern at one point. Then a Great Bear drop, so kind of a mini helix before the main drop, which inspired us to use the terrain to our benefit eventually, which I think is cool. But yeah, so nothing in the layout has changed that much outside of course, the first drop as well as where the station is. Everything else is almost exactly the same, with the exception of like some minimal smoothing and whatnot. And then while we're over here, might as well talk about the train going around Xanadu. This is going to be its final layout, which I'm excited about. Have to do a lot more terrain shaping all over, which, you know, it's going to take its time. This is the trestle bridge that I talked about a couple episodes ago that was going to be like the main amazing attraction of this ride or whatnot. But it also got me thinking about Silver Dollar City and Silverwood. Both of those parks have small shows off in the middle of the woods. And I thought about, why not have a small stunt show moment on towards the end of the train ride. I'm thinking about adding a cool story in line with the train as well. So maybe bringing that to life on this corner would be really cool. Outside of that, most of this is just going to be pretty heavily wooded, very in line with Silver Dollar City and especially Silverwood. But I'm sure you saw a train exploding over here earlier, as it does yet again. Here is how our amazing B&M Giga is looking from a distance. This is Wendigo. First drop is well over 330 feet tall. You have this overbank turn right here, which is looking amazing. And then, of course, what you guys have voted on, a giant floater airtime hill, which I will say does not really give floater airtime right now. It's like, it's in the ejector range, so we might change that a little bit. We'll see. And then the newest vote, the newest poll, gave us this twisted speed hill, and it's looking pretty good. I have to do some more shaping on it, so make sure to stay tuned for the next poll that will be coming out. If not before this video, very soon after this video, because we got to figure out how we're going to turn this train back around for this insane Giga coaster and eventually lead it back towards that final brake run, which is going to be really, really exciting. It's still got like 90 miles an hour of speed. It's just nuts. So yeah, it's going to be crazy. So there you have it, our mini update on Rolling Springs for this week. Hopefully have a lot of this theming done in the week following, which I'm pretty excited about. I hope you are as well. But yeah, make sure to stay tuned. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure to do that, because we're going to have plenty of these videos coming out over the next coming weeks. Even though Planet Coaster 2 is coming out, I want to make sure I can get at least to a position where I'm happy with how the park looks and release it to you guys in multiple different decades form, which will be really cool. So we'll have a park for when it first opened available on the Steam Workshop, one probably in the 20th anniversary range, and then of course the park as you see it now. So that'll be a cool change of pace all around, and I hope you're excited to see all of that when that's done. But yeah, it's been quite cool getting all of this done finally, just because it's been such a mental block for me to try and tackle all of the crazy terrain changes. But I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.